So I guess we're gonna try this without the microphone, just see how the audio works. Quick update, my application for project management got accepted, which means now I can schedule for my test. You have to write a list of experiences, job experiences. For example, for me, because I have a bachelor's degree, I need to be able to prove that I've done approximately 3.5 years of project management experience. When I do these videos, it's to help me study. Hopefully you understand them as well, and maybe you can apply it, if not to project management, but to other areas of your life. Whether or not you're doing business, you're doing business. Working, for example, as a medical student, you have your residents, you could see those as your mid-level managers, and then you have the attending physician, which you could call a senior manager. And you have relationships between those that you have to manage, who's high interest, who's low interest, who has high power, who has low power. And since we're talking about power, I wanted to make a mention of 8 sources of power. The French Raven framework was developed around the 1950s by French and Raven. And what they did was they identified about 5 to 6 sources of power. It has expanded to 8 since the decades have passed. And those 8 sources of power aren't singular, but it's ways of you viewing and actually recognizing how that power looks. Let's use this as an example. It talks about the 8 sources of power being broken down into 2 categories. Those 2 categories are positional power, power that has been given to you, power that is external, and then there's personal power. And so personal power is something that you have internally, that you intrinsically as a person. So one of the things that you can think about is that maybe you don't have much positional power now in your field of work, but you can have a lot of personal power. One of the ways to think about it is that personal power is free, whereas positional power is paid. So one of the things that we have in positional power is when it's external power given, you have legitimate power, reward power, coercive power, and then resource power. So what's legitimate power? Legitimate power is a title. It was given to you, it is recognized, it is legal. For example, it doesn't matter who you are as a person, it should, but if you were voted to be the president of the Association of Hockey, if they even have that, it doesn't matter what goes on. Everything that you sign, all the things that you do, it is legitimate power as the president of the Association of Hockey. Reward power is a little bit different. So it's still a form of positional power, but reward power, whether or not you have legitimate power, reward power is the ability to provide rewards. For example, an employer to somebody who isn't their employee can offer the reward of payment if that non-employee comes to work for them and become an employee, but it's actually not one of the most powerful. Coercive is actually one of the least ones you want to do. It's your ability to punish. Whether or not you have legitimate power or rewarding power, you might have the ability to punish somebody. A security card, or somebody who was able to take you to prison. You know, there is some legitimate power as to what the laws and regulations are, but they're not the judge, they're not the lawyer, they're not the jury that convicted you. They're just the person that has been given the authority to take you to your place of punishment. For resource power, here's an example. When one country owns access to oil and another country has to trade with them, that country has a bit of control or a bargaining chip in that. It's positional power. It's not their personal character. It's simply they have something that you need. Where it gets down to, the really important thing is that personal power is something that we can all use and take advantage of regardless of our circumstances. Positional power, a little harder to do. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort, it takes money. Personal power is more how you interact with people. Referent power is, for example, when you think of referent, think of the word refer. Who do people refer you as? Who do people associate you with? Who do people associate you to? This is actually referred to as the most important thing, the most important source of power. Here's an example. Elon Musk, what is he associated with? Space technology, green technology. He is associated with the future. When people believe in you, when people are able to support and get behind you because their vision of you is something greater. It's like a greater cause. So how do we build referent power? Is really we find a target audience. We find a target audience, we find a target group, and then we begin to associate ourselves with that group, whether it's in our actions, whether it's in our occupation. You are trying to show evidence of, I am a champion for this thing. Look at this. And over time, people begin to say, oh, that's the guy who does this. Another one is expert power, which is what can you do and what can you teach. This is not so much as what do you know, but your technical ability. When you're an expert in your field, people can come to you for you to fix things, and they can't deny your ability to turn a situation from something bad to something better. One way people can think about it is, for example, being the guru of something. Now, there's a difference between expert power and the next one. Informational power is what you know. Anybody can come to you for not only the information, but the urgency with which it's provided. I might know a lot about horses and how to take care of horses, and that is really good information. Let's say if I was a veterinarian specifically for horses. But what if I could tell you by looking at your horse, like as it was first born, I could say this is a number one racehorse, or this horse is a winning horse. It's a great racehorse. Now, that is information early on so that you can raise it up. So not only knowing information, but knowing information early. And that information has to benefit the person who wants it. If you know a lot of things, but no one cares about what you know, then how much power is that? Connection power are connection. Connection power is connection. Who do you know? You are able to utilize another person's power or skill set because of your relationship with them. That's connection. So again, these are the 8 sources of power. This is defined by the French Raven framework. When you understand the difference between positional power and personal power, you can then maybe evaluate yourself and say, hey, I might not have as much positional power, but I do have the ability to grow in personal power, so then I can start working my way to aspects of positional power.